A black woman enters the federal courthouse early in the morning, polished, calm, composed. Minutes later, she's dragged into a back room, her head forcibly shaved by the very officers sworn to uphold justice. What they don't know is, they just messed with the wrong person, because that woman? She'd be the one sitting on the bench in a few moments. 8:03 a.m., the steps of the Charleston Federal Courthouse. Celeste Monroe stepped out of her silver Buick, the soft morning light glinting through the moss-draped trees. She adjusted the collar of her navy blue blazer, clutched a slim leather portfolio, her heels clicking softly across the concrete each step, a quiet declaration of confidence. No robe, no fanfare. She liked to enter buildings as a citizen, observant, quiet, and unannounced. But this morning, she wasn't recognized as a citizen. She certainly wasn't recognized as someone with authority. She was just another black woman walking into a building where power was never handed over easily. At the security checkpoint, Deputy Hank Riker, a large, rugged officer with old-school eyes, immediately tensed. She hadn't even presented her ID when he raised a hand. "Ma'am, I need you to step out of line." Celeste tilted her head slightly. "Is there a problem, officer?" Riker didn't answer right away. His gaze swept over her silver twisted hair, neatly pressed slacks, and that unwavering look in her eyes. Something about her irked him. In his mind, power didn't look like this. Not a woman, not someone black, no visible ID. You don't just walk into a federal courthouse looking like that. Celeste unbuttoned her blazer, presenting her federal badge. Riker barely glanced at it before slipping it into his pocket. "I'd like that returned," she said coolly. "In a rush, sweetheart," he replied with a sneer. A younger female guard nearby looked uneasy, but said nothing. "I need to get to a courtroom," Celeste stated. "Then you'll follow my procedure," Riker snapped. "Random check." He gripped her arm and guided her down a side hallway, empty and out of sight. And that was when a chain of brutal events began, ones that would shake an entire system. Celeste was led into a sterile, windowless room. A steel chair sat in the middle. Nearby, a cart held scanning equipment and clippers. She stood still, unshaken. "I do not consent to this," she said clearly. "You have no legal basis to detain me." Riker stared coldly, signaling to other officers. One grabbed her wrist, the other secured the chair. "I want your names. This is a violation," Celeste demanded. Riker ignored her and powered on the clippers. They buzzed to life. "You could be hiding something in that mop," he muttered. He moved toward her hair without warning. The first coil fell, then another, then another. Celeste didn't cry, didn't blink. She sat as piece by piece, her dignity was stripped away. A guard chuckled. "She looks better already." "Now, you look the part," Riker added, her hands balled into fists. "You'll regret this," she said, her voice low and steady. He sneered. "People like you always say that." He tossed her badge on the table. "Courtrooms that way." Celeste rose, head patchy, steps firm. She took her badge, walked out, and left behind not her power, but the illusion that any of them ever had control. The double doors opened. Conversation stopped, heads turned. Celeste entered not as a victim, not in shame, but with silent fire in every step. No one recognized her. Until she stepped up to the judge's bench, gasps echoed. Deputy Riker, posted at the side door, froze. Celeste retrieved her robe from the clerk, unfolded it herself, and slipped it on like armor. She didn't look at Riker, she looked at the court. "Are we ready to begin?" "Why, yes, Your Honor," the clerk stammered. She lowered herself into the chair, calm, controlled. "Case to 371F, United States versus Charleston Police Department. Charges: abuse of power, excessive force, civil rights violations. Call the first witness." No one moved. Even the attorney sat, stunned. Deputy Riker started to shake. Because the reckoning had just begun. Witnesses were called, stories of brutality laid bare. Celeste didn't flinch. She listened. She wrote. Her voice when it came was precise, deadly, and calm. But it was during recess that the real silence fell. Only a few remained. She turned toward Riker. "Deputy Riker," he stopped. Stepped forward, he hesitated, then obeyed. "State your full name for the record." "Hank Riker. How long have you served at this courthouse?" 14 years, and in those years, how many women have you humiliated?" The room held its breath. I didn't know who you were." "You didn't need to." She rose from her seat. "You laid your hands on a federal judge in her own courthouse. And for that you are under investigation, effective immediately." The clerk stood. "Escort Deputy Riker from this courtroom." "He is no longer staff." The door opened. The cuffs clicked. The room stayed silent, but something had shifted. Justice had just stood up from her chair and taken aim. The courtroom emptied slowly. Some left in disbelief, others lingered, whispering. Celeste remained seated, her hands folded, eyes closed, but not to rest. In her chambers, she stood before the mirror. The woman staring back had patches of bare scalp where silver locks once fell. She didn't look like a judge today. She looked like someone who had survived something. And yet, her eyes still burned with purpose. The door creaked open. "Your Honor," her clerk said quietly, "there's someone asking to speak with you. Says it's urgent, send them in." A young woman stepped in, mid-20s, timid, glasses fogged from the cold. "I just wanted to say, I saw what happened this morning." I didn't say anything, I was scared." Celeste didn't scold her, she simply nodded. "Thank you for saying something now. If you need me to testify, I will." Celeste reached out and clasped her hand. "That means more than you know." When court resumed, something had changed. Every person who entered stood a little straighter. The press typed faster, the attorneys whispered softer. Celeste tapped her gavel. "Court is now back in session." A new witness took the stand, an older man with calloused hands and pain in his eyes. He spoke of his teenage son being tackled and nearly suffocated by officers during a peaceful protest. "They said he was faking it," the man said. "But he still can't speak clearly to this day." Celeste didn't blink. She let him finish every word. When he stepped down, the courtroom was silent. "You've been heard," she said simply. The defense struck back. "We'd like to request the judge recuse herself due to personal involvement in the case," the lead attorney said smugly. Celeste stood. "You mean because I was assaulted in this building?" He hesitated. "Yes, Your Honor, there's concern about bias." She stepped from the bench. "What bias?" "The kind where I sit silently while victims are silenced. That's your comfort zone, not mine." The gallery murmured. "This motion is denied. And if you're worried about justice being personal, remember this. It always is." During a break, an envelope was slid under her door. Inside 12 complaints, all against Riker, all signed off and buried. And the signature at the bottom, Judge Terrence Money, her mentor. A note attached read, "Riker keeps order." Especially with certain groups, Celeste's hands trembled. She wasn't just fighting a man, she was fighting a system. She returned to court with the file in hand. "I am submitting new evidence. 12 buried complaints, names, signatures, all here." The defense scrambled to object. She silenced them with a look. "This court will no longer protect silence over truth." From the back, an old man stood. "I was arrested here in 2011. Riker broke 2 of my ribs. They said I tripped." Celeste nodded. "Anyone else?" Hands began to rise. 1, 5, a dozen, each one a story waiting to be heard. More witnesses came forward. A former clerk, a courthouse janitor, even a retired U.S. Marshal. "I let it slide," he said, "but I saw it, all of it. I should have spoken up." Celeste gave him space. His words echoed. And the gallery listened. Outside, a crowd had gathered. Protesters, journalists, survivors. Signs read, "Justice starts now, protect Black women." Inside, Celeste looked out the window. Then back at her robe, she folded it over her arm. Today, she would speak as more than a judge. She would speak as a woman, a survivor. "I'm introducing a new policy," she announced. "The Monroe Mandate, bias training, zero tolerance. Accountability, this isn't revenge. It's responsibility." The room didn't cheer. It nodded, quiet, respectful, because they knew. This wasn't performative, this was reform. Riker was brought in cuffs. Celeste looked at him not with hate, but with clarity. 6 years for abuse of power, 5 for civil rights violations. 1 for obstruction. She leaned forward. "You spent your career deciding who deserved dignity. Now you'll sit where you put others." She tapped her gavel, "Take him away." Weeks passed. Celeste returned to work. Her head bare, no scarf, no hat, and when she entered a courtroom, everyone stood before the clerk could speak. Not because of the title, because of what she now represented. Months later, the Monroe Mandate spread. Other judges adopted it. Congress took notice. She spoke at schools. Told her story. And when a young girl once asked her, "Do you still believe in the system?" she paused. "I believe in what it can become." The room stood again. Because Celeste Monroe wasn't just a judge anymore. She was justice made visible. The end.